Welcome to another exciting episode of Reading Reels! Are you ready to show everyone what you're learning in school? Then let's get started. You know them, you love them. Now get ready to say them loud and proud. Letter sounds.
O, ow, ooh, I.
You're doing such an amazing job learning to read that Alfie has a bonus feature to show you. And here it is.
Muddy Muddy. The author is Susan Davis. The illustrator is Michael Hummel. Jamelia lived in a cozy red apartment with her mother and their dog, Muddy. Muddy was small with fluffy white fur that had brown spots, which is how he got his name. Jamelia and Muddy were the best of friends and went everywhere together. One day, Jamelia and Muddy played in the park. They had a wonderful time, but returned home covered in dirt from head to toe, or head to paw in Muddy's case. "We need to clean ourselves up, Muddy," said Jamelia as she led the dog into the bathroom. She turned the water on until it was warm and grabbed the slippery soap and swooshed it under the water. Muddy started wagging his tail when he saw all the bubbles. This made Jamelia laugh, and she swooshed and swooshed until her hands and arms were as bubbly as she could make them. Muddy wagged his tail so hard that he fell over and started scratching his back on the floor tiles with joy. "Don't worry, Muddy," said Jamelia, giving him a loving pat on the head. "I'll clean you up now, too." Muddy looked hopeful, and soon Jamelia returned with a sponge, soft, fluffy towels, and some dog shampoo. Jamelia had never shampooed the dog before, but she had seen her mother do it plenty of times and was sure that she could do it herself. She put Muddy in the tub. Muddy peered over the edge of the tub as Jamelia poured a cupful of soap to add to the water. Poor Jamelia. This is where she made her mistake. If she had read the directions, she would have seen that she only needed to add a spoonful of soap. By adding a cupful to the water, she used much more soap than she should have. She picked up the sponge and dunked it in the soapy water. Slosh, slosh. Every time she dunked the sponge, more bubbles appeared, which, of course, made Muddy wag his tail. Jamelia kept right on sloshing to her dog's delight, never noticing that with each slosh, the bubbles grew higher and higher, first flowing out of the tub, and then all over the floor, and finally filling up the room, until she and Muddy were floating on top of a huge cloud of bubbles, their heads just inches away from the ceiling. The bubbles soon pushed them out the bathroom door, ran them down the hall, and floated them way up high into the living room. Jamelia and Muddy soon discovered that they could move around quite safely in the bubbles. Jamelia moved by swimming, and Muddy by dog paddling. They chased each other around the house all afternoon, having a wonderful time. Finally, Muddy noticed that the bubbles were getting lower. He tried to bark at Jamelia to let her know, but instead of a bark, only little bubbles came out. Lower and lower they sank, until they were safe and sound back on the ground. The house smelled of soap, everything gleamed, and Jamelia and Muddy were as clean as they could be. Just then, Jamelia's mother came home. You cleaned the house, she said, pleased at having such a responsible daughter. Jamelia and Muddy looked at each other. Yeah, said Jamelia. Bloop, bloop, barked Muddy, who was still giving off happy bubbles.
And thank you, boys and girls, for tuning in today.
Until next time, remember, reading rocks!
Woohoo!